They're drawn to the more temperate climates like California. Do you understand? So that's why we have an inordinate supply of homeless people, right? That's, they go to places like Florida. I don't know. I don't know why they're drawn to California so much, but they are. Okay, Hawaii, that's another story. That's better climate for the homeless, but I don't think they have as much of a homeless problem. But for whatever reason, we do have a lot, and it's the high cost of housing. We're setting a trend. I mean, it's unaffordable housing. So he knows that problem. So, I'm going to support him as long as he's, you know, if he starts seeing that this is the kind of stuff that will get him a bullet in the brain. And I think he's smart enough to know that. You see, this is JFK knew what he was doing as a controversy. He didn't care. I mean, he had a, laissez-faire attitude. Let the buyer beware. I mean, you want to play capitalism? I mean, here, I'm going to give you a competing currency. That's what JFK did with the treasury notes that he was already circulating. I remember him as a little boy, the ones and fives, silver notes, silver certificates. They looked just about like dollars, the ones the Federal Reserve notes were so familiar with. But people were taken to them because the idea was it was sound money backed by silver. People, you see, they almost on an intuitive level, people understand things like supply and demand. They understand progress. They understand that in this industrial age, that this great wealth that's being created by the people should be shared by the people. It's only logical, it's only reasonable, and it's illogical and unreasonable to suggest otherwise should be the case. But they have. How do you think they got away with this crap? The government's involved. That makes it fascist because they want to drive up real estate costs because they get more money from the property taxes, real estate taxes. So the motivation is clear. And they've done it with the Labor Department being in the pockets, being a lapdog for the Federal Reservists. Okay, I mean, the Federal Reserve, if there was a hint of impropriety at the assassination of JFK, since he was in the process of getting rid of this evil agency entity, okay, remember that the top money lovers, of course, they want to be involved in that. Where do you think the Satanists are? This is where they are. They're in the money printing operation, the vast, wanton, satanic power of money. That's of course. So this guy's threatening that power. What are you, fool? So that's the same thing on a smaller level that Governor Newsom is facing. So I admire that. That's courageous, and he knows it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. Democrats and Republicans. You see, this is a political issue, but it's a political issue in the sense that it has everything to do with money. It has nothing to do with Democrat, Republican. If it was that simple, I'd tell you. It doesn't. That'd be great. Okay, but Democrats and Republicans, remember, they're all landlords. They all read Robert Kiyosaki's books and Rich Dad and Carlton Sheets and all the rest of them out there that tell you to get into this business of speculating and flipping properties and how to do it, penciling it in, doing the math and figuring out how you can swing it and be assured of success. And the debt thing, Trump knows all about that, just running your debt, riding the debt, just like they're doing with the government. These idiot politicians, they're lapdogs too. They're sycophants for the money printing class. They vote for policies they know are going to raise our cost of living, then they give themselves a raise to cushion themselves, to insulate themselves from the damage they're doing to the poor. So the Labor Department has been obviously, look at who can dispute they've been deliberately remiss and who can defend that? Who can defend that? Year after year, okay, since at least the assassination of JFK in 63. Slowly, they had to start out stealthily. Remember, they got to kind of hide in the shadows, and just be sneaky about this and what they're doing, what their plans are. But this is the kind of stuff they do. I mean, look at what is this? The Overton window. Okay, it's a fact. Nobody can dispute the fact we're being manipulated. So how do you defend that in the mid 60s? Let's say minimum wage was approximately $1 an hour. Okay, maybe it was $1.50. Let's just keep it simple. Let's just say in the mid 60s it was approximately a buck an hour. I worked for a buck an hour in 1973 when I was 15 years old. I worked on a dairy farm in Connecticut. Okay, so I don't know how it was legal. I don't know what compelled me to, I guess I thought I was underage. I don't know why I would work on a dairy. I would bust my behind 10 hours a day. My mom used to drive me to this farm in Fitchville, Connecticut. It was, just out in the farmlands and the rolling hills of Connecticut outside of Norwich where we were living. I only lived there for a matter of a few months before we moved back to California, but I'm not going to go into that too much right now. But yeah, 10 hours a day. I got a big glass of raw milk, nice ice cold glass of milk in a chilled glass, and my mom would usually pack me a couple of peanut butter and jam sandwiches, something like that, and I just busted my hump. I learned how to drive a tractor and bale hay, and it's funny. I think my boss, my master, the owner of the farm, Alva Beebe, I think he got a kick out of this. One time he put me in the field with the all the cows and the heifers and the bull, one bull, and the bull just looked at me, big ring through his nose, and he was snorting, and he gave me this stick. He said, "Look, if the bull starts coming at you or anything, you just show him the stick." And, and I was like, "Holy crap!" But nothing happened, and yeah, overall it was a good experience. It was interesting. I'm glad I did it, and I saved up my money. And when my family moved back to Santa Cruz, my sisters were emancipated. They were neither one of them, I don't think, were, well, I guess one of them was 18 by then. The other one about 16, 17. I was still 15. Came back to Santa Cruz, and I saved up that money I earned, and I bought a little XR75. It was a little Honda motorcycle, a little dirt bike, and I used to ride it in a field nearby. It turned out to be a factory later on. We had Lipton's went in there, and Wrigley's factory was there. And in fact, I think Intel set up there. I remember working there back in the 80s for a short while with a temporary work agency. But Intel, the technology. Remember, I was bending these chips, the old computer chips with the legs on them. My job was quality control. We had to bend straight the legs on these chips and reuse them. So you had to do a good job. I don't think I was particularly good at it. It was tedious, monotonous crap. But man, I've done a lot of different stuff in my life, I got to tell you. But anyhow, I've digressed here. And listen, the point is that the Labor Department has been totally remiss. Just imagine if they had told people in the mid-'60s they're going to still get that $1 an hour minimum wage they've been getting, but the difference is it's going to be worth 2.5 cents tomorrow. Essentially, that's what they've done now. Gradually, incrementally, slowly, over time, just like the frogs in the pot of water analogy. If you turn the heat up slow enough, they don't have an opportunity to jump out of the pot. So, and this rising tide of prosperity, the wealth is there. This debt is just made up. I mean, somehow this debt is just an illusion, okay? And it's manufactured by those that would steal the wealth that rightfully belongs to the inhabitants of the planet forever and just keep stealing more and more of it and hold them captive, just enslave them more and more. And legally now, people talk about slavery being a thing of the past. They don't know what they're talking about. This happened right under our noses. We're deluded. The entire freaking planet is deluded. People got to figure that out. And that's why I feel so sorry for people that are financially well-heeled and they think they got it going on, but they don't have a relationship with God. And what they're doing is these are the ones God's infuriated with. You're making them jealous. How does it feel to be made jealous? I mean, you're ignoring him. Do you understand? You see, God is the only one that's worthy and deserving of our deepest affections and our greatest attention. Okay, this is the commandment. Jesus said, I give you 2 new commandments. He didn't come to abolish the 10 commandments. He said he came to fill them full or fulfill them. So they're all encapsulated in these new 2 ones. He simplified it. He said, my yoke is easy, my load is light. You understand how beautiful this whole thing is? That God is that good, that loving, that kind, that cool, that righteous, that he gave us these 2 simple commandments that none of us, unless we're just being disingenuous and liars, fancy word for liars, right? Intellectually dishonest, we can do these things. We can love God above all else. Okay, so, in light of the fact that money is, we should see that as a hot potato. It's like, I don't want it. Here, you take it. And right within your family, what if you did that? So the rich person in your family said, nah, that's it, I'm done with this money. Jesus said it's harder for a rich man to go to heaven than for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle. He couldn't have been more blunt, more succinct. He didn't mince words. I know it's a metaphor, but I get the point here. You understand? So what if families started doing that? And the next day, well, I didn't want it in the first place, right? So all the righteous start denying it. They don't want it. They don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be caught with my pants down, holding the bag. Okay? What if I died today? I mean, what the hell do I want with all the? You understand? Our mindset could be so entirely different. We could be so much freaking happier if we were just willing that we were all set free and just trust that the system's going to work fine. That people are going to all these jobs right now that revolve around the problems persisting. And the greatest problem they got to keep intact is destitution, financial destitution, desperate poverty. It drives the vast majority of crime. Okay? This is how they get away with starting these dubious wars. This is how they've got away with indebting our nations. This is the way they get away with establishing a social welfare industry right under our noses. You understand? And they got us all believing somehow this all makes sense, that we just accept ever-growing regression, the opposite of progress, right? It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And you think you can be happy and divorce yourselves from, you understand? You can't. It's on a molecular level. Psychically, we're attached to each other at the hips, inextricably so. Our welfare is entangled, okay? And that's just the way it is. And the only thing we can do is to try to heal that. So the same things. It's all very simple that we want for ourselves and our families and friends. We've got to want for everybody. We've got to be willing. Everybody has it. It's all very simple. So these new 2 commandments that Christ gave us were to love him above all else, which is the right thing. I mean, this is the one that taught you love feels good. This is the one that gave you life, breath, existence. This is one we owe everything to, right? Isn't that fair and reasonable? I mean, is he asking too much to be honored above everything and loved above all else? Because he gave you everything. He gave you your 5 senses. He's the one that's responsible for every good thing you've ever experienced or might experience today or in the future. And he's not to blame for anything bad that's ever happened to you or humanity in history or today, anything that could befall you that's bad or in the future. His name is vindicated, and you just need to continue that, carry the water for him, okay, and honor him. And point to him and say, this is who you need. I mean, there's nothing wrong with people going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or to a counselor or a therapist or to a pastor or some other form of guidance, right, from a human being. But at the end of the day, they're just human beings. They're fallible. They might have bigger problems than us. So while it's okay to talk things over, I mean, just a friend even can be the best resource sometimes. So I'm not going to take away from anybody that has a listening ear. That's great. That's what friends do. It's a shame that you got to get paid for it, and so your motivation, your incentive gets all blurred. The lines get blurred there, and that's you see how can we be happy under this paradigm? This is absurd. This is ridiculous. But God's the one that we need to turn to. He's the only one that really can help us out of our doldrums or whatever we're going through in life. He's the one that can tell us what's bugging us, and he can show us the way out. And, we're all selfish. Let's admit it. We're all money lovers. God knows it. We can lie to everybody, including ourselves, but God knows what's going on with us. And so we've got to admit it, and then admit there's solutions. That for every problem you experience and see out there in the world and in your own life, there are solutions. And he's willing to give them to you. And you got to, even if you can't follow him, you say, well, I'm self-defeating. I feel compelled to sabotage my happiness because there's so much misery in the world. Everywhere I look, death, destruction, disease, misery. It just never ends, right? All the negativity that we've got to witness that other people are experiencing. So psychically, you see how we're all connected and how we want us metaphorically slash our wrists, self-flagellate, and feel guilty and compunction about how lucky we feel, and how blessed we are, how fortunate, and how great we have it. You understand? We can't enjoy it. So God knows what's going on. How can you enjoy it? While others suffer unnecessarily. That's a key term. It's unnecessary. It's an absolute term. You see, if it was necessary suffering, it'd be something like organic problems that we all have to face, like death, disease. Uh, we've got natural disasters, extreme temperature changes. We've got predation out there. We've got gravity to contend with, momentum. You know, I'm alluding to, car accidents being, leading cause of death.